watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara Rai. Now, what we've seen in the last 24 hours is the two largest e-commerce companies announcing expansion of the delivery fleet with electric vehicles. Between the two of them, you're talking about an addition of 35,000 EVs. And the two e-commerce companies, Flipkart and Amazon. So it really doesn't get bigger than this. We've been talking about how EV is the hot space. You've certainly seen that in the US, right? With Tesla and Elon Musk, what a run that has been. The question is, how competitive, how far away is India from being EV ready? Is it going to miss the EV bus? What are the challenges that we're facing? Is capital coming into this space at all? And joining me to talk about this are two people who get this space really, really well because they have skin in the game. Our guest today to talk about this is Amit Gupta, the founder and CEO of YULU. YULU is a startup that has many investors, including Bajaj Auto. We're also being joined by Kunal Khattar, the managing partner at Advantedge Founders. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of today's edition of Startup Central. Amit, I'll come to you first. You have the backing of many marquee investors, but you've also got an auto manufacturer on your side, which is Bajaj Auto. It's a trend that we started seeing about 12 to 18 months ago. Bajaj Auto took a bet with you. We saw Hero Moto, for example, taking a bet with Ather. Can you tell us, as an EV maker, how far away is India from being EV ready?
I think India is getting good foundation in place, while the numbers are very small. But now we've started seeing in certain segments that includes moving people for short distances, which YULU's business model, and also for last mile delivery, it makes perfect business sense. So it's all about we putting all of our might. I think there are a couple of challenges we have to work on, but I believe India is finally ready to electrify its mobility.
Okay. Kunal, if I could come to you now. These are very big statements that are being made by the likes of Amazon and Flipkart, right? You're talking about 35,000 EVs between the two of them. They're tying up with some of the largest manufacturers that we have here, whether it's a Mahindra Electric or a Hero Electric, all of that. Is this the way you see EVs really taking off in India? First with two-wheelers, delivery fleet, all of that, and not so much for personal use?
Absolutely. So what we've seen from the fund and from what's happening on the ground is India, as you know, is the world's largest two-wheeler market. The most successful electric form factor is the three-wheeler e-rickshaw. So we think in the first phase, it's the two and three-wheelers that will see instant adoption. And within the two-wheelers and three-wheelers, it's the commercial use case, which is either personal mobility with companies like YULU or commercial last-mile delivery companies or e-commerce fulfillment companies. And the reason for that is there is an incessant focus on building positive unit economics, either in shared mobility or in logistics. And as you know, EVs with about 85% less operational cost, we think the adoption for B2B use cases in EVs will be far greater than personal mobility. So if I were to make a simple waterfall, we're expecting fast adoptions of two and three-wheelers for commercial use case, then two-wheelers for personal use case. Four-wheelers for personal mobility will actually take the longest, which is also not going to take more than 4 to 5 years to become to scale.
We had Mr. R.C. Bhargav, the top boss of Maruti India, on ET Now recently, where he said he doesn't see India being EV ready for personal mobility, at least for 4 to 5 years. That was his views, but as we've seen also, things do change very, very fast. We didn't know a few weeks ago, for example, that e-commerce companies are going to place such large orders. If I can come back to you, Amit, would you agree with this hypothesis that it's certainly going to first begin with two-wheelers, with commercial, and then is that what companies like yourselves are also planning and strategizing?
Kunal, India, with our limited road space and how much money we can afford on our mobility, a small form factor is the way to go. When we look at our own journey, although we're in the movement of people, we found that our unit economics are at least 3 times better if we would have used the petrol-driven scooter, just for an example. And when you are talking about a smaller form factor, management of battery, management of operations are far more easier versus you are talking about setting up a charging infrastructure, let's say for a car, where you have to deal with a different type of power lines and the safety of the battery and multiple things come in picture. But when you are dealing with a small, easier form factor, all of those challenges go away and all you can do is just quickly scale this business and convert mine. I think there's one important point I would like to mention. While maybe the sale of personal vehicle is still not going to hamper with shared mobility, but the miles, if you started things, how many miles are getting electrified, we believe that the two thematic point which Kunal also mentioned, where the B2B logistic space as well as person moving on a fleet like YULU, they will be contributing to large portion of our mobility in the cities. And hence, we will have a far better impact of electrification in the case of air pollution, as well as also easing out the traffic in the big cities.
But Amit, for the future to be indeed electric, and you've raised a few issues, the others are going to be the challenges of, do you have enough charging stations? Is your battery going to be lasting long enough? Is it competitively priced? Where is India in all of that?
So, as I said that for at least the commercial use case, we are actually doing better. So we using petrol or diesel versus electric, the use case is super easy, no brainer. The operational costs are far lesser. It's much easier in terms of management. There are a couple of challenges, that includes the financing of EV. So today, when you go and try to take EVs on debt, the terms are not very favorable. And we have been requesting through Niti Aayog and other ministry, if we can fix that problem, I think we can accelerate our electrification vision in India very, very fast. But if you remove the problem with respect to financing, I think there's nothing else which is coming in the equation. We actually have sorted all of the problems, including the charging stations.
So financing is one of the biggest issues, and that's what an EV maker backed by Bajaj Auto is telling us. So let me pose that question to Kunal for figuring out solutions. Kunal, you understand EVs, you understand auto, and you also understand financing and capital deployment. What is a way out? And the challenge that EVs are still expensive, will that continue to make their adoption a problem?
One word, disintermediation, which is separation of the EV from the battery. So today, if you look at the difference between the price of an ICE and the EV, it's typically the asset value of the battery itself. I think one of the things that the government is proposing, and I think is a welcome issue, is that government is saying that the ownership of the vehicle and the battery can be different, which means you can effectively take a bank loan for a vehicle and you can have a third-party financing company that can buy and lease the battery back to you, either on a monthly base or a usage base. If that happens, then the price of an EV and the price of an ICE will be exactly the same. The reason why this makes so much sense today, Rentara, is that if you go to buy a vehicle from Maruti, for example, you pay 10 lakh rupees for the car, but the manufacturer doesn't say, give me 5 lakh rupees of petrol upfront. So why is it that we are forcing people to buy for the electric battery or the lithium-ion battery itself, which has a 5-year life? So I think disintermediation, which is separation of ownership from the EV and the battery, will definitely make most sense and will accelerate adoption of EVs, not only for commercial use case, but also accelerate the adoption of EVs for personal mobility.
So you want to separate the battery as well as from the way you're suggesting. But Kunal, the question I also want to ask you is, the battery is the most expensive component we have. India is the world's largest two-wheeler market. Is India doing enough innovation as far as batteries for two-wheelers go, at least, to be competitively priced, to build for India and the world?
See, our dependence on imports will always remain if the batteries are lithium ion. And that's just the way the supply chains have got monopolized by other countries, and I'm not going to name them. We have seen a couple of very interesting and exciting startups which are looking to build technologies which are creating alternatives to the lithium-ion battery. So I think that is one way that we can protect ourselves from being dependent on imports. So the other method which we are seeing is more and more technology that's going in for rapid charging. In two-wheelers, the good news is that because of the low power to weight ratios, the size of the batteries that you see on two-wheelers is small enough to make battery swapping to be practical as well as efficient and economical. So we think that in the short term, we're going to see battery swapping as a good way to solve for that. And again, in battery swapping, it's even easier to separate the ownership of the vehicle and the battery. And in the long term, I think rapid charging is probably going to win. And the good thing about rapid charging is that there is no change in behavior or customer use case, because that's exactly what he's used to in the traditional ICE. It takes 10 minutes to fill up a car with petrol or diesel, and it's going to take 10 minutes to rapid charge a battery as well. So I think in both those reasons, that's the way to go for faster adoption of EVs.
Okay, with that, gentlemen, I'd like to thank both of you for taking the time out to be live with us on this evening's edition of Startup Central. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Look forward to many more interviews. EVs certainly heating up, so I suspect you'll be, and hopefully be on the show more often. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short commercial break. But we're going to continue with this theme of EVs. It's one of the hottest spaces that you have globally. In India, it's getting a big push as well. We had interviewed Advantedge co-founder Tarun. Remember, this is a startup that is backed by Hero MotoCorp. That conversation coming up for you.